All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Lori Benison, and I'm a wellness consultant for Lovelace Health Plan. Welcome to this presentation of Accidentally Overweight. We have a big crowd today. It's a popular topic. In a world where weight loss is a major concern, so many people ask the question, how did I end up like this? They've become accidentally overweight. This presentation is based on the book Accidentally Overweight by Dr. Libby Weaver, and it identifies 9 factors, both biochemical and emotional, that have to come together for the body to access fat and burn it. So before we get started on that, I'd like to review a couple of housekeeping rules. Everyone's in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, you can type them to us, or you can email us at healthysteps@lovelace.com. If you experience any scratchiness or static on the line, it's usually due to some kind of weather pattern and will resolve itself quickly. However, if for some reason you do get disconnected, you can just simply call back in. This presentation will last approximately 60 minutes. It's a lot of information, so I'm going to try to cover it very quickly. And your feedback is really important to us, so please complete the survey that we'll send out following this. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for future reference at www.lovelacehealthplan.com at Healthy Steps. All right, so what we're going to talk about today. Today we'll talk a little bit about the history, our own personal history with food, digestion, which is the basis of our health, a little bit about the Western diet, what it is and why it's a problem, and all the puzzle pieces that have to come together for the body to burn fat, and some possible solutions for each of those areas. So let's start with where we've come from. So humans have been on Earth for about a couple 100,000 years, and as nomads we lived off the land that surrounded us as we moved. As hunters and gatherers, only the seasons, the climate, and the weather conditions influenced our food choices. We were very active, and humans ate fresh food precisely the way it came from nature. Then about 10,000 years ago, humans started to stay in one place for longer periods of time, and very basic agricultural practices were established. This was the first time we grew crops and the first time we consumed the milk of other animals. This was also the first time repetition became significant in human diets as a result of not having to chase our food down and also having a supply of crops in the field. So our patterns of eating, however, were still based on nature's rhythms, and our produce was seasonal and at the mercy of floods and droughts. And then a really significant change came to our lifestyle in the 19th century as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Processes were mechanized, and there was enormous reliance on agriculture for food production as population numbers grew. A day's work required less movement as people came off the land and worked in these newly developed factories. So then propel forward to today. The last 2 decades have ushered in the information age, which included the invention of cell phones and the birth of the internet. This has been the most rapid period of change in human history ever. We now eat out of packages which have numbers, and ingredients like additives and preservatives and hormones, antibiotics. Rather than food-based ingredients, we live our lives in front of computers. We don't have to climb stairs. We don't even have to go to the store and buy our food, let alone go into the field and harvest it or chase it down with a spear. So our lives are very different. And in so many areas, we're guinea pigs, basically. You know, never before has a group of people ever been exposed to pesticides for their entire life. Never before have artificial sweeteners, colors, preservatives been in our food for the entirety of our lifetimes. And never before have our diets pumped us so full of antibiotics and growth hormones. I'm crossing my fingers and toes that they're safe, but instinct tells me that that might not be so. At a cellular level, we basically have the same human body as our ancestors, and today we're so far removed from our origins that we can now eat a tomato in the middle of winter As silly and insignificant as it sounds and as tasteless as that may be, it's a clear indication that we've lost touch with the guiding light of nature when it comes not just to our food but to our whole way of living. We're just not wired to cope with constant pressure, whether it's perceived or real, nor are we equipped long-term to eat poor quality food and lead sedentary lifestyles strapped to our computers with our cell phones plugged into our ear sockets. So we'll talk a little bit about the Western diet. In the last couple of decades, we've witnessed a rapid expansion in the human frame and waistline. Americans are said to be overfed and undernourished, and this is largely due to our sedentary lifestyles and regular consumption of processed and restaurant food. Plus, a comparative analysis of the USDA's food composition tables show that most vegetables and fruit have lost substantial vitamin and mineral content. This decline in nutritional value over the last 40 years has been attributed to modern farming practices that lead to mineral depletion of the soil and loss of microorganisms, along with changes in plant varieties. So without adequate nutrition, research has shown that people develop chronic health conditions. More and more nutritional studies have linked many of today's most prevalent life-threatening chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, stroke, obesity, high blood pressure, macular degeneration, bone loss, and dementia, all to nutritional deficiencies. Research is finding simple nutrition may eradicate many of these common conditions as it has with scurvy, pellagra, beriberi, and others. The simple truth may be that susceptibility to disease is linked to nutritional deficiency. To maintain good health, our bodies need macronutrients like carbohydrates, proteins, and fat, and they also need micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, Americans typically lack a sufficient amount of the minerals calcium, magnesium, potassium, and the vitamins A, C, D, and E that are needed to maintain good health. According to the Council of Responsible Nutrition, research suggests that the regular use of a nutritional supplement is a sensible choice for most people. While a multivitamin can't in any way replace healthy eating or in any way make up for unhealthy eating, it can help to fill the nutrient holes that may sometimes affect even the most careful eaters. So with America's food system today, we do a really good job with the quantity of food, like how much food we can produce, but we're not doing such a good job with the quality of the food. In fact, as noted by Michael Pollan, author of In Defense of the Food, wherever in the world the Western diet has gone, disease has followed in the same order of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So the Western pattern diet is a dietary habit chosen by many people in developed countries and increasingly in developing countries, and it's characterized by high intakes of red meat, sugary desserts, high-fat foods, and refined grains. It also typically contains high-fat dairy products, high-sugar drinks, and higher intakes of processed meat. The term is used to describe this pattern of diet in medical literature, regardless of where the diet is found, and is often contrasted with what's called the prudent diet, which has higher levels of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, poultry, and fish. So I'll repeat that. It's contrasted with the prudent diet, which has higher levels of fruits, vegetables, whole grain foods, poultry, and fish. I really like this quote. If the answers to what you are searching for were in the places you had already been looking, don't you think you would have found them by now? So we've heard it before, exercise and eat right. But know this, weight management is more than just balancing calories in and calories out. So the details of people's lives are very different, yet the patterns of responses driving human behavior are often very similar. Biochemically, we are much the same as we were a couple 100,000 years ago. Still the same, too, is our subconscious mind, which is 40,000 times more powerful than our conscious mind, as well as our nervous systems, which enormously affect every cell in our bodies, every hormonal system, every organ, and every aspect of fat burning. Today we'll talk about 9 factors, both biochemical and emotional, that have to come together for the body to access fat and burn it. And we, Before we get started with those, though, I want to say just a bit about digestion, which is the basis of your health. So digestion is the process of breaking down food so that we can absorb it and utilize it for energy to sustain our lives. So food is broken down into small components. For example, proteins are broken down into amino acids, and it is through this breakdown of our food and our absorption of these smaller substances that we're nourished. And it is intimately connected to how we feel and function every single day, from the energy you feel to the fat you burn, the texture and appearance of your skin, to whether you have a bloated tummy or not, right down to your mood. It's a system that can give you grief if you're bloated, if you have intermittent diarrhea and constipation, or if you get reflux, and you can reach a point where you feel like that's just the way life is always going to be. Digestion is the perfect place to start when solving your weight loss puzzle, and it's important that these initial building blocks to outstanding health be in place. Often people want to lose weight to get healthy, but in reality you have to be healthy first if you want to lose weight. It can be a challenge to balance hormones, for example, if your digestion is the bane of your life. The gut is essentially like a second brain in your body. In fact, you may not know that 80% of your body's total serotonin, which is your feel-good, happy, calm hormone, that it's in the gut. So gut dysfunction can enormously affect our mood. So the digestive system is made up of a digestive tract, a big long tube, and some ancillary organs, including the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. And the big long tube begins at your mouth, moves down the esophagus through a valve and into your stomach, and then the food moves through a valve at the bottom side of the stomach and into the small intestines, through the small intestines and into the large intestines, and then any waste is excreted out at the other end. And when this process works well, you just look and feel fantastic, and if it is in any way impaired, the opposite can be true, and correcting it can change your life. So the first thing that you can do to help support your digestion is to chew your food. So many people eat as though their esophagus is lined with teeth. Many are in such a hurry with our meals, or we're so excited by the flavor of our food that we might chew each mouthful 4 times if we are lucky. It's a case of chew, 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 yum, next forkful in, chew, chew, oh my gosh, my mouth is so full, better swallow some food. So we swallow some partially chewed food and some or not all of that chewed food, and we do this day in and day out, year after year, and somehow expect our stomachs to just cope. So slow down. If you're a food inhaler, try this. Put your food into your mouth, chew it really well, and then swallow it before you put the next mouthful in. I know it sounds simple, but just try it. For food inhalers, it can take an enormous amount of concentration to change their eating behavior, and you might even try putting your fork or spoon down between each mouthful if that will help. So secondly, pay attention to how much food you're eating. Make a fist and look at it. This is how big your stomach is without any food in it. Tiny, isn't it? So think about what happens when you pile your plate high in the evening and you inhale that big mountain of food. After you swallow, the first place food lands is in your stomach, and your stomach has to stretch to accommodate it. Food has to sit in the stomach for a minimum of about 30 minutes to allow the stomach acid and other digestive juices to really begin to break the food down. And once your stomach gets used to being stretched, it expects it every day, and this stretching is the reason why if you decide to eat less or go on a diet, you tend to feel hungry after your meals for around 4 days, as it can take a few days for the nerve endings around your stomach pouch to shrink back. The nerves are fired off when they reach a certain stretching point, and they send a message to the brain to let you know you've eaten. This is one of numerous mechanisms we have that have the potential to tell us to stop eating, that we've had enough. The trouble is, for some, the stomach is so used to being stretched, by the time the nerves fire, we may have already overeaten. This is the process through which carbohydrates let us know that we've eaten, the stomach stretch method. With fat and protein, however, once we've chewed these foods, messages are already being sent from the mouth to the satiety center of the brain to let us know that we're eating. These signals usually reach the brain within 5 minutes of chewing, while the stomach stretch method can take more like 20 minutes. So including fats or proteins with each meal, you are likely to eat less and be satisfied with less total food for that meal than if you simply ate carbohydrates on their own. A rough guide to the amount of food we eat at each meal is approximately 2 fist sizes. That is concentrated food such as proteins or carbohydrates. You can and need to add as many greens or non-starchy vegetables or salad to that as you like. And although they have a high nutrient content, they're mostly water. And for some of us, the key to weight management is simply eating less food by reducing our portion sizes. So eat less. Reduce your portion sizes by 1/4 and see how you feel. Obviously, many of us know that we need to reduce our portion size and not to eat after dinner, yet no matter how hard we seem to try, we can't seem to eat less or stop eating once we start. This is why the whys behind our food and eating behaviors need to be explored. And we'll talk more about that later. So the stomach acid pH. The aroma of food as well as the chewing action itself stimulates stomach acid production, which is an exceptionally important substance when it comes to great digestion. The role of stomach acid is to break food down into their smaller components. Your body is governed by pH ranges, and these pH is a measure of acidity or alkalinity. The pH range is based on a scale from 1 to 14, with 1 being the acid end of the spectrum and 14 being the alkaline end, while 7 is neutral. And every fluid, every tissue, every cell of your body has a pH at which it performs optimally. The optimal pH for the stomach acid is 1.9, which is so acidic it would burn you if it touched your skin. But it doesn't burn you while it's nicely housed inside your stomach, as the cells that line the stomach itself not only produce stomach acid, but they're also designed to withstand the superacidic conditions. For many of us, the pH of our stomach is not acidic enough, and it may have a pH that's far greater than 1.9, which is not ideal for digestion. This can mean the difference between a flat abdomen and a bloated abdomen after a meal. Adults with reflux or indigestion tend to assume that the burning sensation that they experience with heartburn means that they are producing too much acid, when in reality the opposite is true. They are usually not making enough stomach acid, or the pH is too high. To understand this, remember that acid breaks the food down into its small component parts. A pH of much higher than 1.9 cannot effectively break the food down, and a body knows that it's not going to be able to further digest these partially broken down circles. So rather than allowing the food to proceed down into the small intestines for the next part of its journey, the body regurgitates the food in an attempt to get rid of it. We then experience the acid burn and assume it's too acidic, when in fact it's not acidic enough to break the food down properly and allow it to pass into the small intestine. It burns you because anything with an acid pH that is too acidic for the tissue to which it's exposed will create a burning sensation. So stomach acid is stimulated by chewing, so chew your food well, and also the aroma of food. If we don't cook our food, if we don't chew it, this doesn't happen. So one way that you can support the pH of your stomach is with lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, and both of those stimulate the production of stomach acid. So if you haven't consumed either of these before, it's best to initially dilute them and ideally consume them 5 to 20 minutes before breakfast, or all your main meals if that appeals. For example, you might begin with half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar and as much water as you like, and then over the coming days and weeks gradually work up to having 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, where you gradually decrease the water. And if you prefer lemon, start with the juice of a half a lemon and some warm water, and gradually work up to having the juice of a whole lemon with less water. And just as an aside, it can be a good idea to brush your teeth after your meals, all of your meals, when you use lemon, to prevent any potential problems with tooth enamel in the future. So we need the pH of our stomach to sit around 2, and water has a pH of 7 or above, depending on the mineral content. The higher, the more alkaline the pH. So when you add a liquid with a pH of 7 or more to one with a pH of 2, what do you potentially do to the stomach acid? You dilute it. So we need all of the digestive fire that we can muster so that we can get the maximum nourishment out of our food and the best out of us. In an ideal world, we wouldn't drink water within 30 minutes either side of eating. You don't need to be concerned about the water content of food, nor do you need to focus on omitting all beverages at every meal. Just simply aim to drink your water between meals and not with meals. It can be a challenging habit to break. You might set yourself a goal of not drinking water with meals for 1 week, and then preferably just try keeping that new habit going. Or if you insist on water with your meals, try adding a squeeze of fresh lemon or lime juice. So symptoms of a high or low stomach pH can be experienced as bloating or pain, excessive wind, compromised absorption of nutrients. So as food moves through the small intestine, digestive enzymes are secreted from the pancreas and in the lining of the small intestine, and the role of the enzymes is to continue what the stomach acid began, which is to continue to break the food down that we've eaten into its smallest, most basic components. It is in the small intestine where you absorb all of the goodness, the vitamins and the minerals out of your food. The small intestine is where the nutrients in your food move from the tube that's your digestive tract and then out into your blood. Just because you eat something, though, doesn't mean that you'll get all the goodness out of it. Just because a food contains, for example, 10 milligrams of zinc doesn't mean that you'll actually get or absorb the whole 10 milligrams when you eat it. The absorption of the nutrients is dependent on a whole host of factors, some of which have been discussed above. If you inhale your food, drink water with your meals, or have a poor stomach acid production, for example, you may absorb very little of the goodness in your food. And if you think that through, nutrients are essential for life, and simply as a result of the way you're eating, let alone the food you might be choosing, you may be robbing yourself of some of the goodness that food provides. So give yourself the best opportunity to absorb as much goodness out of your food as possible by applying the tips we are giving you today. It may add energy to your years and years to your life. A bit about gut bacteria. So food moves from the small intestine to the large intestine. On average, an adult will have 6 to 7 pounds of bacteria living in their colon. That bacteria is essential to life. Some of the bacteria in your large bowel is good and some is bad, and you want more good than bad. The role of the gut bacteria is to ferment whatever you give them. If you didn't chew well and your colon is presented with fragments of food, all it knows to do with it is ferment it. And fermentation involves bacterial action on the food source and the subsequent production of gas. Some gases are essential to the health of the cells that line our gut, while others seem to irritate the gut and give us a bloated, uncomfortable stomach as the day progresses, whether we've eaten healthy or not. So a little bit about the opioid excess theory. Another concept within digestive health that is not only fascinating but is a wide range of effects on how we feel and function, including our gut transit time, is how quickly food moves through the digestive system. So mood, concentration, and potential food addictions is a concept known as the opioid excess theory. So in a healthy gut, only tiny nutrients like vitamins and minerals move through the gut wall into the bloodstream, and this is the process through which we're nourished and stay alive. However, cells that line the gut can come apart due to gastrointestinal infection or stress. A chronic production of stress hormones can cause a compromise of the integrity of the gut cells and signal to them that they need to move further apart so that more nutrition can get through to the blood, as nutrient requirements increase during times of stress. So when the food travels through a gut with good cell lining integrity, it can only go straight ahead. However, if it travels through a gut in which the cells have come apart, it may go straight ahead or it may move out of the gut and into the blood. Fragments of food are not intended to enter the blood. Nutrients are. So if fragments of food enter the bloodstream, the immune system, which is what protects you from infections, thinks that the food fragment is a germ and it mounts an immune response against it. This is one way adults develop food sensitivities. If we could literally see food fragments, their structure is very similar to opioids, substances that help humans feel good. And these food fragments, like the casein, the major protein in cow's milk, and gluten, the major protein in wheat, rye, barley, and oats, have the ability to bind to the opioid receptors in the brain and very subtly make us feel good. The effect is not usually noticed as a boost in mood, but the person will often feel like they can't live without this food. The power that food can have over an individual is just like an addiction. If you suspect this process is going on for you, the recommendation is to omit all sources of that dietary component, whether it's gluten or casein, for a trial period of 4 weeks. The first 4 to 7 days will be the most difficult, but persevere. The results may be enormously worth it. If you do omit significant dietary components from your diet, however, for extended periods, it can be useful to consult a health professional to make sure you don't miss out on any of the nutrients that are essential for your health. So try omitting this food for 4 weeks and see if it doesn't give you some answers to your health concerns. It's possible that the opioid effect is one of the factors behind food addictions, and hence for some overeating and eating and not feeling like you can stop. This is an area that deserves much more research, time, and money, as the opioid excess theory may be involved in numerous health conditions as well as obesity. So after the food exits, after the food exits the large intestines, it exits your body, right? And so the question is, how empty do you feel after you've used your bowels? For some, this may not be an issue at all, and you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, and others can understand this frustrating discomfort. Even if you use your bowels every day, it may feel like there's more to come, but it just doesn't eventuate or evacuate. This feeling can be the result of numerous scenarios, including the insufficient digestive processes like the ones we talked about previously. It may be inadequate production of digestive enzymes due to poor signaling or a damaged or inflamed intestinal lining. It may be a food allergy or intolerance. It may be poor fiber intake or dehydration. It can be stress hormones causing the muscles surrounding the bowel to contract and hold on to waste. It might be a magnesium deficiency, not allowing the walls of the bowel to relax and allow a thorough passage of waste. The thyroid gland may not be working optimally. The list of scenarios is almost endless. One option to improve this challenge, however, is to have a health professional help you get to the bottom of it and remedy the situation. You might increase the green vegetables or decrease processed foods in your diet for a week and see if that makes a difference, especially given that green vegetables are good sources of magnesium, water, and fiber. You may be suspicious of a food or a group of foods that are causing you to feel this feeling for you, but because you love this food, you're reticent to remove it. I can't encourage you enough to remove your suspicious food from your diet for a trial period of 2 weeks. 4 is even better. But just think, 2 little weeks out of your very long life is a relatively short period of time necessary to potentially offer enormous insight into your health challenges. You may get an answer to your challenge over the trial period, and if not, you can relax and thoroughly enjoy this food that you love rather than silently wondering if it's the basis of your incomplete evacuation. And you may feel so good that you have no desire to go back to the way you used to eat, or you may miss the food terribly. If it's the latter, it's no longer a mystery and it's your choice. Unless food is a true allergy for you, your tolerance of it may change and improve over time, especially with a focus on gut healing and stress management. So don't think just because it hurts you today that it always will. Our bodies change and renew themselves constantly. it's also important to know the consequences, right? If waste remains in the bowel for too long, it can give the liver additional and unnecessary toxins to process, as well as sort of suffocating the cells that line the colon. The waste can dry out and harden, sticking itself to the lining of the bowel wall, and then narrowing the tube through which the new waste can flow. Chamomile is one of the best things that you can take to help remedy this problem. Once the waste has dried out, it's really difficult to rehydrate, so it can move through and be excreted. And the chamomile softens the waste and helps the bowel wall to relax. Another remedy, one that many people have very strong opinions about, is colon hydrotherapy, or colonics as they're known. This process involves a tube being inserted into the person's rectum through which warm or cool water gently flows. This allows the hardened fecal matter to soften like a heavy, consistent rain on dried out soil, allowing the large bowel to empty fully, often getting rid of built-up waste that may have been there for a very long time. Up until the early 1900s, colonics were a part of just general medicine, and doctors understood the importance of good bowel evacuation. But before the split between Western and complementary medicine, colonics were once accepted as a very normal treatment method for a host of health conditions, not just bowel issues. With a well-functioning bowel, an enormous load is not only taken off the digestive system, but also the liver, the organ primarily responsible for cleaning our body. So help prevent bowel cancer and liver problems by ensuring efficient bowel evacuation, and always seek advice from a health professional before undertaking colon hydrotherapy if that appeals to you. So we talked about those other bowel challenges: feeling bloated, diarrhea, constipation, reflux, indigestion, irritable bowel syndrome. And then we'll talk about how poor digestion can be due to stress. So poor digestion can be due to stress, or more precisely, adrenaline. Adrenaline drives the blood supply away from your digestive processes and concentrates the blood in your periphery, or like your arms and your legs. And the reason for this is not having blood focused on digestion is more likely to get you out of the perceived danger that you're in and keep you focused on escaping the danger. If blood were still concentrated on the digestive system, there's a risk that you would be distracted by food, and again, if you were really in danger, which is what the adrenaline communicates to your body, your life may be over if you suddenly spotted a piece of fruit hanging on a tree nearby, and rather than remaining focused on getting out of danger. So stress hormones, and the processes they drive in your body impact body fat, weight loss, and digestion. So let's review the tips for digestive health. Digestion is central and essential to every process in our body. So whether your focus is weight loss, or optimizing your health and well-being, or improving a challenging or a diseased gut, understanding your digestive system is a crucial first step. To support your digestive system, try the things we've talked about here. Slow down, chew your food, swallow before you put another forkful in. Include fats and or proteins with every meal. Eat less. Try reducing your portion sizes by 25% and see how you feel. Wake up your stomach acid with lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. Omit a food you feel you cannot live without for at least 2 weeks, but preferably 4. And if your gut is feeling particularly irritated, you can start your day with aloe vera juice. And remember to eat mindfully and in a calm state. So on to the puzzle pieces now, which is what I assume you guys are here for. The calories. Now that we've just reviewed the basic digestion, we'll talk about calories. Many of us have been taught that body shape and size is simply a matter of calories in versus calories out. And in the early part of our life, this appears to be true, yet for some, eating less or exercising more may not seem to make a difference it once did, or for some, no difference at all. We are often very quick to blame age, but if age were truly a factor, then surely every 80-year-old would be overweight. Taking in too many calories is not the only reason some people cannot lose weight. On a physical level, this may be due to a variety of body systems, such as the production of stress hormones, the balance of sex hormones, liver function, colonic gut bacteria profiles, thyroid function, insulin, leptin hormone levels, exercise methods, alkalinity, and the nervous system. Any or all of these systems can play a role when people do all they can for little or no reward. The message does not deny that willpower has a place. Of course it does, but there can be reasons besides a lack of willpower to achieving a smaller body. So support the digestive process in the way suggested in this presentation and see if it makes a difference. And do not relentlessly continue consuming the foods or drinks that drive your body to speak to you with negative consequences. Pay attention to the signals your body gives you. Your body is a tool through which you can learn, and remember, it's what you do every day that impacts your health, not what you do sometimes. Food is designed to energize us. If you feel you need to fall asleep after a meal, then that meal may not have served you. A great question to ask yourself before you eat is, will this nourish me? This is something that can be answered from a nutritional perspective, which reflects on the food's vitamin and mineral content, or from a soul perspective. Sometimes eating a bag of chips with a glass of wine in the company of your dearest friends is the best thing ever, just not every day. So that being said, you can't eat like a piglet every day, consume lots of calories, sit on your bottom all day, and expect things to fall into place. Oh, but sometimes you can't stop. So finish this sentence. Food is what? Think of the first thing that came to your mind. For many people, the type of word they use to finish this sentence is one relating to pleasure. For example, food is delicious, amazing, yummy, food is love. An athlete might respond to the question as food is fuel or energy. A dietitian's response to that question is food is nourishment. If the answer is a word linked to pleasure, you are far more likely to overconsume. So ask yourself, what else in your life currently gives you pleasure? I suggest that you consider avoiding eating all of the food that you really super link to pleasure, and identify activities or states of being instead that can replace the pleasure you find in that food. It's a big challenge. Know that food is never the problem. It's the reason behind poor food choices or the desire for large portions that needs exploring and adjusting. Many people have battled their weight for a long time, don't believe they have easy access to other pleasurable thoughts or activities. Food is the easy option. Trouble is, the pleasure on the lips is short-lived because deep inside we know that what we're eating is really hurting us, so we just don't know how to change it. We feel unable to control what we think is our appetite, and without realizing it, this appetite for food is nearly always an appetite to feel differently, to feel an emotion other than the one that's rearing its head. Yet at the time, all we know is that we feel like eating lots of ice cream. An example of an emotional drive for eating is when we can't possibly be hungry. You know, you just finished dinner. And many people are unaware of how they really feel, or would prefer to not deny, like the anger, the sadness, for example, that's just below the surface. Their perception is kind of, you know, that it's safer not to acknowledge it. So that nagging feeling that you want something. Our body is governed by rhythms. There's circadian rhythm, and part of that is the melatonin and serotonin processes. And melatonin is associated with going to sleep at night and the body going into a restful state. And then serotonin works antagonistically to that. And that, as we said, is our like happy, feel good, get us up and get going hormone. So when one goes up, the other goes down. And again, that's kind of governed by our circadian rhythms. So the rhythms coupled with fading sunlight allow melatonin to rise, which in turn means serotonin must fall. So 5 minutes before you were fine, and now there's this nagging feeling that you want something. Our chemistry makes us feel like we want something, and our brain tries to label what that might be. Humans instinctively know that carbohydrate-rich foods promote serotonin production, which is partly why when the I want something syndrome hits, we head for the pantry. We hope that what we want is in there. Usually, though, guilt is all we find. So mornings can prove a challenge. Melatonin is destroyed by sunlight, which is partly why when we go outside and exercise first thing in the morning, we feel great all day. The melatonin plummets when the retina of our eyes is exposed to light, and as a result, the serotonin surges. However, if we just wander out of bed sometime in the morning, our melatonin slowly seeps away and our serotonin slowly rises, and on such a day we feel like we need a few coffees to get ourselves going. So if too many calories are a piece of your weight loss puzzle, try these solutions. Serve dinner on smaller plates. It creates an illusion of having more. Imagine a cup of cereal in a large mixing bowl versus a small cereal bowl. Eat 2 fist sizes of food for meals, 1 for snacks. Eat slowly. Take your time. Chew your food. Set your fork down between bites. Remember, it takes 20 minutes for your brain to get the message you've eaten. And chew each mouthful for a minimum of 20 times. Swallow before you put the next forkful in. Eat every 3 hours. Limit processed food and restaurant food, which is often high in fat and sugar. Get some discipline around your thoughts. You're more likely to make poor choices when you're silently saying mean things to yourself. And eat mindfully. Pay attention to the sights, the sounds, the smell of food. So poor digestion, we said, could also be due to stress, or more precisely adrenaline. And adrenaline is a short-term stress hormone that's produced when you get a fright. If someone startles you and you jump, that feeling is caused by adrenaline. Adrenaline is designed to get you out of danger fast. When activated, the typically excellent supply to your digestive system is diverted away from your digestive system to your periphery, your arms and legs. This is necessary because you need a powerful blood supply to your arms and legs to get you out of danger. You also need fuel to get them the necessary energy, and the most readily available source is sugar or glucose. Your liver and your muscles store this sugar or glucose in the form of glycogen, and adrenaline communicates to your liver and muscles that energy is required. They then convert that sugar into glucose and dump it into your blood. This stress and the need for adrenaline is over very quickly. The trouble is that for many of us in the modern world, it's more often psychological stress that drives us to make adrenaline, and although our life may literally not be threatened, this hormone still communicates to every cell of our body that our life is indeed threatened. So if you're sitting at the bottom, sitting on your bottom at your desk in front of a computer and sugar is being dumped into your blood, you make insulin to deal with the elevation in blood sugar. Insulin is one of our primary fat storage hormones. Many of us run on adrenaline. The human body is incredibly resilient, and although we were not designed to withstand long-term stress, many bodies appear to tolerate as opposed to thrive on years and years of living on adrenaline. Part of the challenge, however, is that once your body perceives that the stress has become long-term, your dominant stress hormone begins to change. Cortisol is your long-term stress hormone. Historically, long-term stress came in the form of floods and famines and wars, and during such times, a person never knew where the next meal was coming from. Today, in the Western world, our long-term stresses tend to be more along the lines of financial stress, relationship concerns, and uncertainty or even worries about our health, even our weight. A chronic pattern of stress can lead to change in your metabolism, and in the right amount, cortisol is an anti-inflammatory, and it buffers the effects of insulin, meaning that optimum amounts help you to continue to burn body fat for energy while also maintaining stable as opposed to rapidly fluctuating blood sugars. When cortisol levels become elevated above optimal, other changes in body chemistry begin to unfold. It has been suggested that elevated cortisol is the one common thread behind metabolic syndrome, elevated blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and insulin resistance, the latter condition being a warning sign that if nothing changes in the near future, type 2 diabetes is a likely consequence. If we remember that we are completely geared for survival and that cortisol tells every cell of your body that food is scarce, another of its role is to slow down your metabolic rate. A slower metabolism leads you to burn body fat for energy more slowly than you have in the past. Cortisol also breaks down protein into amino acids, and your muscles are made from proteins, and cortisol signals them to break down as the body's perception is that fuel is needed. Additional amino acids are also needed in the blood to help repair tissues, even though you may simply be sitting on your bottom in front of the television with your financial or relationship concerns mulling around in your head. The amino acids released can be converted back into glucose, which your body thinks may be useful to assist you in your stress. Yet if you're not active, this increase in blood sugar will not be utilized, and insulin will have to be secreted to return blood sugar levels to normal and send glucose to storage over, the muscles, the fat, the liver. Over time, the catabolic signaling of cortisol may break down some of the muscles, so now there's less space for storage. As a result, some of the blood glucose returns to the remaining muscles while the leftovers are converted into body fat. Keeping the glucose level of the blood within the normal range is of more importance to your body than whether you have wobbly bits around your middle. Because stress in your life has been going on for a while, your body, not knowing any better, thinks that there's no more food left in the world, and it instinctively knows that it has a greater chance of survival if it holds on to some extra body fat. In modern times, when for health reasons or vanity or both, many people understand the importance of not carrying too much body fat, cortisol can provide a potential challenge to someone who believes that eating less is their only solution to body fat loss. Additionally, if your body thinks food is scarce due to elevated cortisol levels, it's very easy to overeat. Cortisol will scream at every cell of your body, "You are so lucky there is food here to eat." I'm not saying that discipline and willpower have no place. My intention is just to point out that we have very ancient hormonal mechanisms in action inside our bodies that believe they now know better than we do when it comes to our survival. So our bodies can be our biggest teacher if we learn how to decipher the messages when it's communicating to us. And extra body fat is sometimes simply a vehicle of communication. The next biochemical stage of stress that can occur, especially if the stress has been prolonged, may involve cortisol falling low. So if you have a high level of cortisol output for many, many years, your adrenal glands may not be able to stand the tension, so they crash. In general terms, you burn out. This is known as adrenal fatigue, and because the major symptom is like a deep, unrelenting fatigue. Cortisol is supposed to be high in the morning, and ideal amounts help you to bounce out of bed, and it plays a role in how vital you feel. It helps the body to combat any inflammatory processes that want to kick in. Stiffness is a key symptom. So cortisol can interfere with your sex hormone metabolism, your sleep patterns via its interference with melatonin, and also your mood via its interference with serotonin. So if this tale is ringing true for you, here are some strategies for adrenal support. Commit to schedule and commit to regular breathing exercises. If you don't take anything else away from this presentation, take this away. Practice deep breathing for 10 minutes a day, inhaling fully and exhaling fully. It can have a profound effect on your health. The thought is that it just helps to turn your nervous system or your stress response. It helps to modulate it and just turn it down a dial. Practice the emotional health strategies that we'll discuss later in this presentation. Try practicing things like yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, or Qigong, and do that a couple of times a week. Practice gratitude. Focus on what you're thankful for. And eat well. Most of us kind of intuitively know what that looks like, unless you have some specific health conditions that you need a little extra support for. And then also try supplementing with vitamins B and C in the form of a multivitamin with added calcium and magnesium. So can estrogen make you fat? This might seem like it's a little bit targeted towards women. For you men out in the audience, hopefully this will help you be a more understanding brother husband, father, son. So sex hormones can be a delicious substance that give you energy and vitality, and yet they can also wreak havoc on your life. When it comes to fat burning, beautiful skin, mental clarity, and a sense of calm and the ability to be patient and not make mountains out of molehills, as well as fertility, very few substances in our body impact us more than our sex hormones. So for this presentation, the two main hormones we'll focus on today are estrogen and testosterone. So estrogen I said testosterone, I meant progesterone. Estrogen prepares a menstruating female to fall pregnant every single month of her life, whether she wants to or not. Remember, our bodies are geared for survival, and perpetuation of the human species is an enormous part of the survival process. As a result of the biological imperative to conceive each month, estrogen ensures that there's adequate body fat, as most females will not immediately know that they've fallen pregnant. In the event that a woman is a stick figure without much body fat, it's possible that a brand new fetus may not survive. To prevent this, estrogen signals fat to be laid down in typical female areas, giving women a pear-like shape to better serve the childbirth process. It lays down fat on the woman's hips, bottoms, thighs, and is typically responsible for making the bottom half of a female body broader than the top half. Estrogen also, unfortunately, promotes fluid retention when it's in excess. So estrogen is a feminine hormone, although men naturally make it in small amounts, and it plays numerous important roles in the human body, including ones associated with reproduction, promoting new bone growth, and supporting cardiovascular health. Estrogen can pose a problem if there's too much of one type of estrogen and not enough of another, or if there's too much of it compared to other hormones in the body, progesterone in particular. So many women feel fat really when they're either bloated or retaining fluid. Hormone levels fluctuate over the month, and so can the amount of fluid being retained until the hormones return to balance. Many women can retain 6 pounds of fluid in a day, and even though the logical part of the female mind will know this, seeing 6 extra pounds on the scales over the course of just a day or even a week will make most women, no matter how logical, feel fat, flat, and lousy. It can feel really disheartening, especially if you've eaten well and exercised. As an aside, are you more likely to make good food choices when you feel disheartened, or are you more likely to get up and want to go for a walk if you feel disheartened? There are numerous factors behind fluid retention, too many to go into here, but in a nutshell, fluid retention can be driven by poor lymphatic flow, mineral deficiencies and imbalances, and poor progesterone production. From an energetic medicine perspective, you should think about who or what you're holding on to that no longer serves you. Perhaps it's a belief that no longer serves you, or your body is simply trying to wake you up to this and get you to change. So many of us fear change, whether we realize it or not. So estrogen is the likely culprit when it comes to fluid in excess. It can also drive headaches, including migraines. It can increase blood clotting, decrease libido, and interfere with thyroid hormone production. Big health consequences, all because there's too much of one little hormone. So progesterone is a sex hormone that rises and holds in place the lining of the uterus if your body detects that conception has taken place. If there's no conception, the lining of the uterus is not needed, and progesterone levels fall away, which initiates menses. When health is optimal, progesterone is the dominant sex hormone from mid-cycle onward until menses. Progesterone is essential if you are to access fat and burn it for energy. Without the right amounts, you will always burn your sugar, which may break your muscles down for energy rather than burning fat. So another thing it's important to know about progesterone is it's a powerful anti-anxiety agent, it's an antidepressant, and it's also a diuretic. So when health is optimal, estrogen is the dominant sex hormone between day 1 and day 14 of the menstrual cycle. Progesterone is the dominant sex hormone from mid-cycle onward until menses. As a reminder, estrogen's job is to lay down the lining of the uterus and make sure there's enough body fat in the event of conception. The reproductive role of progesterone is to hold that lining of the uterus in place with the additional biological functions of anti-anxiety, antidepressant, diuretic, and fat burner. When you experience stress, adrenaline communicates to every cell in your body that your life is being threatened, even though all you may have done is shown up for work and had an unexpected deadline thrown at you, or perhaps you had an argument with your beloved. Since your body links progesterone to fertility, if your body's perception is that your life is under threat, the last thing it wants is for a woman to conceive, so it shuts down adrenal progesterone production. Estrogen and cortisol remain, both signaling fat storage, while you've lost the counterbalancing hormone that burns fat and gets rid of excess fluid. This shift can wreak havoc on a woman's emotional and physical well-being. A female goes from feeling happy, healthy, balanced, and energized with clarity of mind and an even mood to having a foggy brain and feeling utterly exhausted. Physically, she may feel puffy, heavy, bloated, and full of fluid with the sense that her clothes are just getting tighter and tighter by the minute. And that's just the first half of her cycle. So if you have any type of menstrual cycle or reproductive system challenges, take a 4-week break away from alcohol. Or better still, take a break from it for 2 menstrual cycles. You'll see your PMS significantly decrease. Coffee can also be another big ticket item when it comes to PMS via liver congestion. Consider swapping coffee for green tea for 4 weeks and see how you feel. And try supplementing with vitamin B, magnesium, fish or flax oil, and try the herbs black cohosh for low estrogen, milk thistle and turmeric, green tea and broccoli extracts for liver and gallbladder support. And then also follow the solutions that we provided for adrenal support. So the liver is the second largest organ of our skin, and it sits just behind the rib cage. Its primary role is detoxification. Any substance that would be harmful to you if it were to accumulate in your body is changed by the liver into a less harmful form, so it can then be excreted safely from your body and removed forever. When it comes to fat burning, the liver packs a mighty punch. In conjunction with the gallbladder, it works endlessly to help us excrete fatty substances, including stored body fat. The best way to imagine the fat-burning power of your liver is to picture a triangle shape on its side, and inside that triangle are billions and billions of little circles, each one of them a lever cell. Inside each lever cell is a mouse on a wheel running and running and running, and each of them turning billions of little wheels that drive your metabolism. When we treat our liver unkindly by smoking, drinking, drugs and medicines, pollutants, processed foods, insecticides, pesticides, food additives, one of those circles can die. For a time, the liver can regenerate a dead cell, but after a while, this is no longer possible, and a globule of fat will take up residence where once the fat-burning little mouse was working. And when many fat globules take over the liver, that's known as fatty liver, our body fat deposition patterns shift. For the first time, people notice that they have a fat roll quite high up on their abdomen. For women, this is just below their bra. For men, it's just beneath their pectoral muscles. It can come and go, and sometimes there's a point right in the center of your torso that's tender. I will suggest that you support your liver based on the presence of a fat roll in that position and the gallbladder support based on that tender point. If it's not, however, only fat burning itself where the liver plays a role in body fat management, the liver also guides other areas of metabolism, including cholesterol and estrogen. So these are some common liver loaders: alcohol, caffeine, trans fats, sugar, synthetic substances, skin care, so-called, infection. There's one road into the liver and 5 pathways out of it. After years of routine consumption of liver loaders, hormonal and bowel problems, the roads out of the liver can become congested. Conventional blood tests for liver function do not show this. The liver takes years of battering before conventional blood tests reflect the congestion that leads them to becoming elevated in the first place. So it's not just the things that we consume or the things that we put on our skin that place demands on the detoxification processes of the liver. Substances our body make itself, like cholesterol, also need transformation by the liver so they can be excreted or converted to sex hormones like progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and estrogen. For cholesterol to be converted into sex hormones, you must have optimal levels of zinc, and essential fatty acids are important. Approximately 70% of people living in the Western countries are deficient in zinc. If the liver is congested and cholesterol metabolism is blocked, instead of being converted into sex hormones or excreted, it accumulates in the blood as cholesterol. So one of the most successful ways to reduce your blood cholesterol is to take really good care of your liver and deal with any inflammation in the body. The other way the body detoxifies is through our antioxidant defense mechanism. Humans stay alive through a process called respiration, meaning that we breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. If you could see oxygen in space, it's two O's, or oxygen molecules stuck together. And when we breathe, oxygen splits apart, forming two single molecules. These are known as free radicals, and they are angry little critters when they've lost their buddy. They have the potential to damage your tissues. One of the main ways that the body defends itself from damage by a free radical is through the consumption of antioxidants. Antioxidant-rich foods are colored plant foods like blueberries, green tea, red wine, and chocolate are rich in antioxidants. The way it works is that the antioxidant donates one of its oxygens back to the single free radical, and they pair up so they no longer damage your tissues. Imagine a free radical like a ball in a pinball machine zipping through the blood and suddenly does a dive bomb and makes an indentation in the wall of a vessel. It resembles the divot in the grass beneath a golf swing that has taken too much soil with it. The damaged vessel sends out a cry for help, and in this case, cholesterol is the hero. It behaves like a Band-Aid and covers the injured site and then sends a signal to all of its cholesterol friends to join the party. The cholesterol piles up and then it oxidizes and hardens. This is called arteriosclerosis, or plaque, and it narrows the interior of the blood vessel. Where once the blood could flow through a wide open vessel, it now has very narrow, restricted path to follow. Your blood is the only way to oxygen and nutrients to get around in your body. The good news is that this condition is reversible. The hardening built-up cholesterol is LDL, and the HDL cholesterol comes along and unsticks each globule of cholesterol and carries it off to the liver to undergo its detoxification process. And when the liver is functioning well, the cholesterol process is excreted and gone forever. However, if the liver is loaded up with substances with a higher priority, then the cholesterol gets reabsorbed and our cholesterol levels go up and up and up. Cholesterol can also be elevated when thyroid function is poor. So here's some signs that your liver may need support. That the liver roll, the increased roll of fat that's just underneath your chest, your breast, and then tender points in the center of your torso, very short fuse or temper, episodes or feelings of intense anger, PMS, cellulite, overheating easily, floaters in your vision, waking around 2 a.m., waking hot in the night, not hungry for breakfast when you first get up. Prefer to start your day with coffee, elevated cholesterol, estrogen dominant symptoms. You bloat easily, you're drinking alcohol daily, or you have a daily long-term caffeine consumption. So these are solutions for your liver. Set yourself a time-based goal when it comes to making these changes. For example, I will only drink alcohol on weekends for 4 weeks, or I will only drink coffee when I go out to breakfast on Sundays. Support your liver by eating foods that are high in omega-3 fats and zinc. Our best sources of omega-3 fats are fish, flaxseed, and walnuts, pecans. The richest source of food source of zinc is oysters at about 70 milligrams per 100 grams, and then beef and lamb also contain some, like 3 to 4 milligrams of, compared to 70, that's not much. And vegetable sources also include sunflower and pumpkin seed, which contain even less. So not so long ago, we obtained consistent amounts of zinc from our plant foods, but food only is as good as the quality of the soil, and if a nutrient is not in the soil, then it can't be in our food. And today, most soil in the Western world is deficient in zinc unless it has been organically grown or biodynamically farmed. So 15 milligrams per day is the recommendation. So where do we get our zinc? Many of us are not. You know, approximately 70% of people living in the Western countries are deficient in zinc, even though it's a mineral that's not only essential for keeping our cholesterol levels in check and producing optimal sex hormones, but it's also vital for our skin and wound healing, as well as digestion and immune function. So zinc is a mighty little mineral. Again, remember, it's what you do every day that impacts your health and not what you do sometimes. So just get honest with yourself and take a good look at how you care for yourself, so that the quality of life is forever excellent. We only have one liver. So gut bacteria. Do you notice that people around you eat and wonder how can they be the size that you are when you feel like you eat like a bird? Do you feel the way that you eat doesn't warrant your size? There may be numerous factors at play, such as the elevated cortisol, estrogen dominance, liver congestion, or excess calories. But the species of bacteria in your large bowel can also play a role. Where fat burning is concerned, it's all about the bacterial species that inhabit your large intestine. Scientific research from 2006 involved inoculating 2 groups of rats with intestinal bacteria, one group with good bacteria and one group with bad bacteria. Both groups of mice were given an identical number of calories from identical food sources, and the group who received the good intestinal bacteria remained the same weight, while the bad bacteria group gained weight. They almost looked puffy or swollen in the images presented in the scientific paper. This was the first research to show that the types of gut bacteria present in your large bowel may influence the value of calories. So the way we eat influences the species of gut bacteria that inhibit our colon. Just like humans, bacteria eat and produce waste. Gut bacteria also have food preferences, and they have a specific nutritional requirement. And guess what they thrive on? Sugar. So don't just reduce refined sugar, eliminate it for a minimum of 4 weeks. You must frame it in your head as 4 tiny weeks out of your big, long life. This is a small chunk of time and may provide you with an extraordinarily important answer to your health issues. If such a challenge feels unattainable, instead of starting by cutting out sugar, simply eat more grains. Crowd sugar out. The grains are bitter, and they make sugar taste sickeningly sweet. Cutting sugar out of your diet will change your whole chemistry. So here's what you can do to develop some good gut bacteria. Favor a whole food diet, plenty of greens, small servings of red meats, chicken, fish, eggs, nuts, and seeds. Cut out grains or milk for 4 weeks if you're suspicious of them. Use 100% aloe vera juice to start your day with. You can also try lemon juice and apple cider vinegar. The herbs golden seal, echinacea, barberry, and olive leaf can support your gut bacteria profiles, and you might even try exploring the use of colon hydrotherapy. So the thyroid, puzzle piece number 6. The butterfly-shaped gland that sits at your throat area and makes hormones plays an enormous role in your metabolic rate as well as your temperature regulation. Iodine and selenium are both vital minerals that literally light up your metabolic rate, and they are missing in most Western soils. Underactive thyroid gland can lead to weight gain that is incredibly difficult to shift. Infection, poor liver function, iodine, selenium, and iron deficiencies, as well as estrogen dominance or elevated cortisol are all major factors that initiate this process. So these are some signs that your thyroid may be underactive: gradual weight increase over months for no apparent reason, often feeling cold, sometimes in your bones, a tendency towards constipation or depressed mood, forgetfulness, a sense of being easily confused. You might experience hair loss or hair drier than previous, experience menstrual problems, difficulty conceiving, or maybe you feel beyond tired, you're just absolutely fatigued, or you're having headaches. So some solutions for your thyroid, since underactive thyroid can be influenced by deficiencies in selenium, iodine, and iron, choose foods that are rich in these minerals. Eat Brazil nuts daily for selenium, use Celtic sea salt with iodine, and cook with seaweeds. Good food sources for iron include beef, lamb, eggs, mussels, sardines, lentils, green leafy vegetables, and dates. There are small amounts of iron in many foods, so eating a varied diet is important. And remember that absorption is enhanced by vitamin C. So regarding iron, it can be good to have a test before you supplement, as overloading on iron is not good. But if you are deficient, it can be very challenging and a very slow process to get your iron levels up without supplementation. Many iron supplements are constipating, but most people find that this doesn't happen with liquid iron supplements. So puzzle piece 7 is insulin. Insulin is made by the pancreas, and it's a type of growth hormone, hence its capacity to drive fat storage. We make insulin when we eat, and carbs elicit the largest production, while protein drives only a small amount of insulin release. People have become confused about and fearful of carbs, yet it's imperative that we consume some carbohydrates since they're vital to the function of our brain, kidneys, red blood cells. When your body identifies that glucose levels have been elevated, the pancreas secretes insulin to remove glucose from the blood. Your body doesn't like it when glucose levels are elevated, as in the sugar in the blood can damage the vessels, similar to the way the free radicals do that I described earlier. It first takes the sugar to the muscles and the liver, where it's stored as glycogen, places from which it can be easily released if we need a fast source of energy if we haven't eaten for a while. Once the muscles and the liver stores are full, if more blood sugar needs to be removed, then insulin will transport it to the fat cells, and fat cells have an infinite capacity to expand. An essential point to make here is that our muscle mass is critical. Don't lose it. Increase it if you can, especially your core, which houses all your organs. They're held in place by muscles, and over time, due to gravity and poor lifestyle choices, these muscles want to go south, and when this happens, they no longer work as efficiently as they once did. So things like Pilates, yoga, Qigong are all excellent for core strength. So how carbs can make you fat or not. Sources of carbohydrate include things like bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, corn, beans, peas, pumpkin, fruit, dietary product or dairy products, candy, cakes, cookies, pastries, honey, maple syrup, and sugar. The only carbs that humans once ate were legumes, pulses, and berries. These days there are over 3,000 snack food items alone on the average supermarket shelves, all of which are processed. It's big surges in insulin on and off over the day, or consistently high circulating insulin, that causes the problem when it comes to fat burning. If you have spent months committed to exercising and eating well with little or no reward, have your blood glucose level as well as your blood insulin levels tested. You may have perfect blood glucose levels, but your body may be making huge amounts of insulin to keep your blood glucose inside the normal range. And if you never know this until you get your insulin tested, no matter how much you exercise or how seemingly amazing you eat, you won't access your fat stores to burn in this biochemical state. Insulin must be addressed. Nutrition information moves in cycles, and at various times in history, different foods have been hailed the enemy. To avoid getting caught in the latest fad, I remind you that nature gets it right. It's human intervention that makes food less nourishing and sustaining. Focus on whole foods, and it'll go a long way to improve your health. So solutions for insulin: eat food like it comes in nature. Limit food out of packets, limit refined sugar and foods that have sugar added to them. Eat carbs only the way they come in nature for 4 weeks. Eat lentils, berries, and other fruit, but keep fruit to 2 servings a day. This does not mean cut the carbs out. It means just what I said, which is don't eat carbs out of packets and limit fruit to 2 pieces a day. Limit alcohol as it drives enormous blood glucose surge and a rapid elevation of insulin. If you do drink alcohol, consume it with food. Many say that if they make it past the witching hour, their desire for alcohol passes. So get some strategies to get past this time in your day. So have your blood tests for glucose and insulin, eat 5 to 6 small meals per day, eat protein with every meal, build muscle with resistance training, apply liver and adrenal support strategies, and avoid artificial sweeteners, as we have no idea of their long-term effect on the human body. There is enormous difference between exposing mice under test conditions to a substance for less than a year and a human's consuming them for their entire lifetime. I'm also suspicious that they do not contain calories. They're confusing the insulin response. Use sparkling water with fresh fruit to sweeten the transition. Puzzle piece number 8. The concept of alkalinity can be a confusing one. It relates to the pH of your blood. When it comes to body fat loss, it's the pH of our blood that can make such an enormous difference. Blood is always slightly alkaline, but the lower the pH inside this alkaline range, the more acidic it is considered to be. Your body likes to keep blood pH right in the middle of the normal range. After we digest our food, the end result, we either push the pH of our blood to be more acidic or more alkaline. When your blood is in an alkaline state, we happily burn body fat, as one of the reasons we store it is to protect our tissues from damage from acidic conditions. As we know, acid burns, and when your blood and tissues, for example your muscles, are too acidic, we tend to hang on to body fat as a way to protect our blood vessels and vital tissues from damage. To exaggerate, when blood is constantly pushed to the acidic end of the spectrum, the cells of your body are bathed in it and so protect themselves from the acid burn. They insulate themselves with fat. Vegetables are virtually the only food to push our blood to the alkaline end of the scale. So consider doubling the amount of green vegetables you usually eat. Everything you eat and drink eventually has an effect on your blood pH. Green vegetables and lemons are almost the only foods that have an alkaline effect on your blood. Bone health is also governed by alkalinity. Your bones are storage houses of calcium and magnesium, and if the blood pH is constantly pushed to be slightly more acidic than is ideal, the blood sends a message to the bones to release calcium and magnesium back out into the blood. Blood health comes first and takes priority over the bones. The Western diet is typically low in alkalizing foods and high in foods that after digestion push your blood chemistry to the less alkaline or more acidic end of the pH spectrum, specifically things like alcohol, coffee, and processed food. It can be confusing when you hear about the importance of acidity in the digestive system and the importance of alkalinity in the blood. To be clear, they're two different systems. If the acid in the stomach is not acidic enough, the food will not be broken down correctly, and partially undigested food will end up too far along the digestive tract. If this occurs, the food ferments, and this drives undesirable gut bacteria to take up residence in the colon. These bacteria often make lactic acid, which further impairs digestion and nutrient absorption, not to mention liver function. Poor digestion has an acidifying effect on blood chemistry. Blood chemistry is a completely separate system, and the digestive system is just one of the things that can affect blood pH. Blood pH is always alkaline. Optimal health occurs with a blood pH around 7.4, right in the middle of the normal range, which is usually considered to be 7.35 to 7.45. Any pH below 7.4 is the acidic end of that range and is not desirable. So solutions. It can be confusing. Have a green smoothie by blending fruit, spinach, or kale in it. Add that, we said, just adding lots of greens into your diet. Optimize your digestion by applying the solutions that we offered. Practice deep breathing for 10 minutes a day. Try eating your fruit on an empty stomach, and eat animal protein separately from starch. So the last one, puzzle piece number 9. Most of us know what to eat, we just don't do it. Even with the confusing nutrition information out there, such as eat carbs as they're essential for energy versus don't eat carbs as they make you fat and tired. Most of us still have a general idea about the food that nourishes us. Sure, there can be areas with which you need some guidance for a specific health picture, such as estrogen dominance, anxiety, or insulin resistance, and that is what health professionals are for. Sometimes, even when we know what to do, we just don't do it. This is where emotions need to be explored. Some emotions don't surface until you start going without what has been your numbing device, whether it's food or coffee or alcohol. What I'm saying is that if you're not physically too big for optimal health, then it's usually not a lack of knowledge that got you there. If it were as simple as applying what you know, then you would have lost weight years ago. In fact, you probably never would have put it on in the first place. So the question is, why don't we live in a way that makes us look and feel our best? Why? It's not just about body size. It can be as much about your body symptoms, such as reflux or sinus congestion or diarrhea. If you eat and drink something while in your heart you know it gives you reflux, blocked sinuses, or loose stools, what are you communicating to your body? You're saying, I'm not listening. Why do we do it? In my opinion, there will be a range of reasons, but they virtually all lead back to the same statement that you're unconsciously telling yourself, which is, I don't really care about you. The psychology of eating is a fascinating area. In every person there are emotions that, although we don't realize it, are incredibly painful for us to feel. And these are typically rejection, failure, and guilt. And of course, there are many more. The ways to explore an emotional approach to eating is to go digging for what food means to you. The second way is about cognitively understanding your emotional landscape and the meanings and rules that you touch on regularly that fuel your life. The third is through the examination and the application of the principles and processes of your emotional patterns. If food falls into the pleasure category, consider what gives you pleasure, connecting with the beauty of nature, your faith, how playful your puppy is. Otherwise, food changes will be temporary. Food either needs a new meaning, such as nourishment or energy, or the other pleasure factors need amped up. Just being aware of what food means to you is a great first step. So humans store fat when they don't feel safe, whatever that means to you. The meanings and rules written by your unconscious mind, the part of your mind that makes your hair grow and your heart beat without you having to think about it or telling them to do so. This part of your mind processes 2 to 4 million pieces of information per second, while your conscious mind only processes about 134 pieces of information per second. Think about that. I mean, really think about that. Your unconscious is extremely powerful. So here are some summary of solutions around emotions. Consider positive rituals that nourish you, give you pleasure, comfort, and soothe you. Question your perspective or belief. Ask yourself, when did I start thinking this, or how did I start thinking this, and let go of what no longer serves you. What emotion do you want to feel regularly? And make those positive emotions easy to feel. Keep it in your control, not relying on someone else. Like, I feel love anytime I smile, appreciate nature, eat food that nourishes me, drink water, hear a bird, exercise, write in my diary, light a candle, read a magazine, rather than saying, I feel loved when so-and-so does this, that, or the other. What emotion is really painful for you to feel? What currently has to happen for you to feel that way? Again, we said make positive emotions easy to feel, and ask yourself, how are you showing up? What do you really believe? So I'm going to leave you with a quote from the book that this presentation was based on, Dr. Libby Weaver, Accidentally Overweight, and this is her wish for her audience. From this moment on, I want you to spend at least 5 minutes a day recognizing all that you contribute to this world just by being who you are. Let that recognition light a flame inside you that every day grows stronger and brighter from the kindness you show yourself through your lifestyle choices and your thoughts. And may the light guide you home to the radiance you have always been. I encourage you to read the book. So these are all of our webinars. We include some prevention and wellness reminders. So I'll give you a moment to look at this slide. Remember to please see your doctor annually and be sure that you are getting the right services at the right time for your gender and your age. Here's a few more. Also, Lovelace members can take advantage of these programs at no additional cost. So these are complimentary wellness programs. You can get connected by calling 505-727-5344 or visit us at www.lovelacehealthplan.com. And that concludes this presentation. Please direct any questions or comments about today's webinar to the following email address, healthysteps@lovelace.com. Complete the evaluation that you will receive via email, and remember to check our website regularly and get registered for additional webinars on topics for getting and staying healthy. Our next webinar is going to be on work-life balance, September 26th at noon. Thank you so much.